Okay, so this is Christmas tree part 2, and this time we're going to look at a passage that is usually used to justify condemning Christmas trees. And I understand why, because they're reading from the corrupted Jewish version. Now, you say, Jewish version corrupted? What are you talking about? Well, everyone who knows me and knows the channel understands. So get on over to therootedword.com. Go up in the menu and choose under pages, TRW pages, choose Old Testament and go read up on it. And it'll explain everything about the Masoretic text and how it's corrupted by the Jews who had crucified Jesus to try to conceal the prophecies of Jesus that Christians were using to prove he's a Messiah. And it took them 900 years. God did what he did to the Tower of Babel. He slowed them down by 900 years. And then the Protestants came along, and in order to distinguish themselves from the Catholics, because they hated the Catholics so vehemently, that they took up the text of the Jews who crucified Jesus as their text for the Old Testament. No joke. No joke. They abandoned the long-standing Latin and Greek texts, and the Greek text especially is 250 years before Christ, translated by the Jews from the Hebrew 230 years before Jesus into Greek. And we don't have the Hebrew surviving, but we've got the Greek surviving. And so that's why that was used as the foundation for the Old Testament up until the time of the Reformation. Okay? So there you go. That's a quick, brief history of it. You can go read about it on the website. So this translation I'm reading from is Brenton's, it's Brenton's translation, English translation of the Septuagint. And Brenton was a famous person, right? You don't need to know who he was. It's like, just, here we go. This is Jeremiah 10, and starting in verse 1. Hear ye the word of the Lord, which he has spoken to you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn ye not the ways of the heathen, and be not alarmed at the signs of the sky, for they are alarmed at them, falling on their faces. For the customs of the nations are vain. It is a tree cut out of the forest, the work of the carpenter, or a molten image. They are beautified with silver and gold. They fix them with hammers and nails. They will set them up that they may not move. It is wrought silver. They will not walk. It is forged silver. They must certainly be borne, for they, carried, for they cannot ride of themselves. Fear them not, for they cannot do any evil, and there is no good in them. Thus shall ye say to them, let the gods which have not made heaven and earth perish from off of the earth and from under the sky. It is the Lord that made the earth by his strength, who set up the world by his wisdom, and by his understanding stretched out the sky, and set abundance of waters in the sky, and brought up clouds from the ends of the earth. He made lightnings for the rain, and brought forth light out of his treasures. Every man is deprived of knowledge. Every goldsmith is confounded because of his graven images. That's what this is about, graven images. For he has cast false gods. There is no breath in them. They are vain works, wrought in mockery. In the time of their visitation they shall perish. In the time of their visitation they shall perish. Such is not the portion of Jacob. For he that formed all things, he is his inheritance. The Lord is his name. And Lord here, of course, is Yahweh's unspeakable name. So now we know the context. The context of this tree being cut out of the forest, which is taken out of context, is to get wood for the carpenter, as he says here, for the work of the carpenter, and he cuts it up and carves an image out of it, of a god. And then that is taken and turned into a molten image that is coated in silver or gold. Okay? And he says it repeatedly, especially about the silver. He says, it is a tree cut out of the forest, the work of a carpenter. So you're already looking at the idol. And he says, this idol is a tree from out of the forest. It's nothing, it's just a tree. It was handed to the carpenter. The carpenter cut it up and carved it up. And it's a molten image, so it's like melted metal on it. They are beautified with silver or gold. They fix them with hammers, like fix them in place with hammers and nails. They will set them up that they may not move. It is wrought silver. It's like worked silver. They will not walk. It is forged silver. They must certainly be carried about, for they cannot ride of themselves. They can't themselves get up and go somewhere. Don't fear them, for they can't do any evil, and there is no good in them. Thus shall ye say to them, let the gods which have not made heaven and earth perish from off of the earth. These so-called gods, they didn't make heaven and earth, so let them perish from off of the earth and from under the sky. It's the Lord that made the earth by his strength. Okay? And you get down to here, it says, every man is deprived of knowledge. Every goldsmith is confounded because of his graven images. For he has cast false gods. There is no breath in them, like there is breath in the living God, who has a spirit. Spirit and breath are the same word, by the way. They are vain works, desolate works. Nothing comes of them. They are wrought in mockery. They're toil with toil. They are worked into a kind of a mockery of God. So that's what it's talking about. So don't let anyone fool you. Even just by reading this in context, read it from the Septuagint translation of Brenton, and you can just, tear them apart. Next time they try to do that to you, say, okay, let's look at the one that Jesus used. This is the Bible Jesus used, because most of his quotes and the apostles' quotes are directly word for word from the Septuagint. So you say, let's go look at the Bible that Jesus used and see what it says. And you read it and you say, let's keep it in context here, okay? This is not talking about cutting a tree down and just bringing the tree in the house and throwing some tinsel on it. It has nothing to do with that. A tree is cut down, for sure, but that's not what they're looking at. They're not looking at a tree when they're saying this. They're looking at an idol of a false god. And he's saying, see this idol of this false god? It was nothing more than a tree in the forest that was cut down and handed to the carpenter. The carpenter fashioned it into the shape that you see here, and then it was molten with metal of gold and silver. And then they use hammer and nails, to fix it up in place, and it can't walk by itself. It can't get up and go anywhere. It has no power to do anything. End of discussion. Has nothing to do with a tree being brought into a house. Has nothing to do with that. Has no relationship whatsoever to a Christmas tree. Zero. So now you know the real story. So you are free to go cut down a tree in the forest and bring it into the house and enjoy it, and the great smell of the pine scent, to put a star on it. Don't worship the star. Don't pray to the star. Don't bow down before the tree. Don't do those kind of stupid things, okay? Just enjoy it there with the lights on it, some ornaments on it. That's fine. There's no problem with that. May the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart.